A collaborator is somebody who likes to work with one other person or a group of people and put the ego outside the door before it starts. So everybody talks to each other in a kind of excited, respectful, and in a creative, inspirational manner with a common aim that you're all going towards. So if that's songwriting, I'm sitting down, for instance, with Gwen Stefani, which we were in my bedroom, and the band were upstairs waiting to see what we were going to come up with. There's a certain kind of pressure element, and there's a certain nervousness because she's used to writing with the band. And that collaboration is about, a lot of the collaborations I do when I write with other people, is about getting Gwen to a place where she really wants to write about something that she's been kind of hiding under the surface, because maybe it's a bit how should I call it? You know, it's something maybe she didn't want to talk about because it's quite sort of emotional. And being able to put it into a context that allows her to sing about it in a sort of positive way, or make part of the song in a positive way, so she feels good about the negative side of it or whatever. And it's about making them, like being a facilitator to make them feel comfortable to unload a lot of stuff, even though it might be jumbled up, and then helping rearrange it into a pattern that becomes something, which would, like, it becomes a song which we wrote called Underneath It All. And then we go upstairs to the band and we were playing it, and very quickly that afternoon we recorded it, and it becomes a reality. And that process I always love, like working with Mick Jagger, writing songs, looking at a movie, Alfie, about a guy who's a real out of touch with his emotions. He's like a cold fish who has loads of different women, and writing songs about how he must be really, really feeling if he was to sit down and, you know, go deeper. And so we wrote a song called Blind Leading the Blind about that. And that was an interesting process because Mick had to do the same thing. He had to think he was Alfie and do the same thing to himself. But musically, we had to make the song turn from like throwaway into very intense as the lyrics changed. And, you know, when you're working with somebody like Mick Jagger, who's written all those brilliant songs, you know, Sympathy for the Devil, you know, Honky Tonk Woman, Get Off My Cloud, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, Tumbling Dice, you know, they just go on and on. You could sit in a room and go, oh my God, I'm not saying anything, I'm waiting till he does it. But you see, because he's such a great collaborator, he's not like that either. He'll be like, I don't know, what do you think? Like, what about this, what about that? You're immediately drawn into a kind of musical conversation. Sometimes you're working and you both got the same vision exactly, and it just goes bang, 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 and you get to the end and you go, oh, that's exactly what we both were thinking. Sometimes you have two very different people's ideas and visions, and that can be very interesting because it slowly twists and turns and becomes this hybrid that you both get a shock because it's nothing like what either of you thought it was. Now, Annie and I are a bit like that. Annie and I, who've written hundreds of songs, have come from completely different places, and they end up sounding nothing like what either of those places were. And yet they sound like the sum of 2 + 4 = 5, you know. Sound like this other new thing, and it's almost like, well, you've had a baby that you kind of don't know yet, you've got to get to know it. You know, and I've written songs with so many different people, you know, like Sinead O'Connor, where her whole thing is about she wants to get the emotion out, and all the chord structure and everything else is fine, but she wants to pour the emotion out. And so you have to try and construct something that helps her do that. And then I've written songs with John Bon Jovi, for instance, who really wants to tell a story. And he wants to tell a story, and he wants his voice to sound like you'll believe it. You know, so that's all to do with what key you're in and how does it transcend into him delivering the punchline. And is that story, it has to be real to do with something to do with him, but it can be a fantasy as long as it's based in some form of truth. Everybody's different.